We know that this has taken a whole lot of your summer, that you don't think, and the last part of your summer is very precious. So we hope you've had a great time, and we hope you're going to continue to have a great time. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be hearing from one of our best and brightest students, Stephen Pelavoda, who you've spoken to before. Then we're going to take you guys out on both a scavenger hunt and to do what's called canvas training. So half of the time you're going to be on your scavenger hunt, and then you're going to be flipping and doing canvas, and the other half of the students are going to do it the opposite direction. So everybody's going to do the same activities, and then this afternoon we have a panel that's going to be wonderful for you. We were missing a couple of people yesterday. We just want to make sure that you see more of our staff. So Shima Majidian is one of our counselors, and she wanted to say hi to you, say a couple of words. B.
Good morning. My name is Shima. I'm a counselor in the counseling office, and I also have case managers, so Goldenrod. You guys are the lucky ones. Yeah. I'm just kidding. So I'm a counselor in the counseling office. So aside from just Project Connections, we also do career counseling. So if you haven't figured out your major yet, transfer counseling if you want to figure out where you want to eventually go outside of here. We do personal counseling, disability services, crisis intervention, programmatic stuff. So even though you may be in another group, but you want to come to see me or any of the other counselors for any of the other services, please feel free to see us. And I'm so happy you guys are here, and best of luck this year. Thank you.
I also wanted to introduce you to Steve.
If you put Shima's name in a blender, it will come out Siham. Now, and if I collect a penny for every time somebody call me Shima, I'll be rich. So don't worry, my name is Siham, not Shima, all right? Nothing personal, but they always call me Shima, which is fine. I'm your adaptive lab coordinator. I will help you with the assistive technology the whole year around. Welcome to MCC.
I want you to know that Siham has enormous patience. She's going to be teaching you how to use technology. She's going to be lending you technology. She's going to be showing you both in the classroom and individually how to use the technology. So please look at her face, because you're going to be seeing her an enormous amount, and I want you to know who she is. She's an important person around here. And without further ado, I don't know that I need to introduce him to you. Most of you have seen him already, but I'll just make another mention anyway, because I know he introduced himself to you yesterday. Stephen is a student that was here at Middlesex. He started, I believe he said 8 years ago.
Yes, that's correct.
So he has since graduated, gotten a college degree, and is now working. He's he's become an enormous advocate for students with disabilities, and he's been in other places recently to give them other keynotes, and he's going to tell you all about himself.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
No, I'm in microphone, we're good? Okay.
Good.
So, Derek really touched on a lot of great points yesterday, so I promised myself I would keep this pretty short, because I think you guys heard a lot, and he said a lot of important points, so I'll just get right into it. So I want to talk to you today about 3 different things. So I want to talk to you about friendship and support, networking, and last but not least, going above and beyond. So let's address first friendship and support. For me, when I was in high school, I was basically alone. I didn't really have any friends. I basically started out with being about 2 years older than most of the people in my classes. So for me, it was a social exclusion, if you will. So for me, it was hard to make friends. But come college, I already knew that I wanted to come here because I had heard about the program, about Project Connections, and I said, well, how great would that be for me to start something new and find new friends, finally start something that would actually put me on a positive path. So I figured, okay, let me come here, see what this is all about. Ended up being the best decision I ever made, because I ended up having friends, and it took me a while to open up. And most of you might not believe this, but I actually used to be a very quiet and shy person. Nowhere near that way now. So it was good what I did, because friendship and support is really important. I think especially like when my dad was passing away, unfortunately, about 7 years ago, I found especially the PC staff to be very supportive, considering what I was going through, especially when he passed away. Everyone kept telling me they were there for me, and I really valued that. I thought that was so important. And even with my friends too, the conversations I had with them, I remember one friend of mine who basically forced me to talk about how I was feeling. She wouldn't let me leave the room. She's like, "You're gonna sit down." I'm like, "Why?" She said, "Because you need to tell me how you're feeling. She said, I can't let you leave this room when you're all bottled up like that." So when she got me to open up, it actually taught me a good life lesson that you really shouldn't bottle things up no matter what you're feeling. So friends are really important. They're going to be the ones that will be there for you even when you're struggling with those classes that you have. There's going to be that one class that you're going to struggle with, or maybe two. We've all been there. I know for me, my greatest weakness was in reading comprehension. So for me, it took me a long time to actually figure out what those skills were to become better at what I already knew how to do. So friendship and support, definitely need it. Have that at all times, because people will get you through those hard times. So networking. Without networking, I would not be here right now, because you always need to be open to what any kind of possibilities will be available to you. Doors will be there, but they're not going to open for you. You have to be the one that opens them. Today, you have a door that's open for you. But the question is, how many of you are going to actually not only step through it, but actually have the courage to keep going? Because you have to be your own source of motivation, right? Sure, you have support, but you have to rely on yourself too to be able to do what you know is right. So you need to be open to that. And with networking, you need to be open to what's around you. Any person you meet, any professor you meet, that might be a connection down the line that might actually land you that full-time job, whatever it may be. Or maybe a speaking opportunity, like what I've been able to do, especially at the state level. I've had the pleasure of being able to speak for different events, like Dare to Dream, or even a summer conference for the New Jersey Council of Inclusive Education. That didn't just happen by chance. That happened because of what my reputation was, because of what my knowledge is in special education. So that all takes time, so you need to be open to that. Network whenever possible. And sometimes what happens is you start with a job that you might think, well, why am I here? You might start with a very low part-time job. You might think, well, what's the big deal about being able to file? What's the big deal about being able to organize things? Those skills will actually help you get to that full-time job. Sometimes we get redirected with what our field is. And you're going to get redirected, and that's okay. Sometimes you're going to take a different path to get to where you want to go. So networking, definitely focus on that. And last but not least, going above and beyond. In Dare to Dream, that's one of our biggest focuses in that conference, and I think the same message applies here. You need to push yourself to the highest extent possible. No one can want something more than you, right? Someone can tell you over and over again, you should do this, you should do that, and that sounds great. But if you don't want it, if you can't taste that, then it doesn't matter. You have to want something so badly that you're willing to fight for what you need, right? Because I could have easily have just been a typical student, gone through my classes, and just gotten my degree and moved on. But no, when I became a student leader here, I took that as a huge opportunity to just grow, not only as a person, but also with my speaking skills, because I always felt that I was a good speaker, but I wanted to hone in on that and strengthen those skills. So being a leader gave me those opportunities. So I feel that's really important. You just need to push yourself. Having that internal motivation. We always talk about that. I know even in student success and the CPS courses, that's a huge emphasis, being able to have that motivation to go above and beyond what's expected of you. If you know someone's having trouble with something, reach out to them. Don't wait for them to be worse than they already are. Take that initiative. A lot of times I find people like to wait for things to happen. Don't be that person. Be that person that takes that first step and go forward with it. I'll take this time for any kind of questions. Anybody have any questions for me? Doris. Excuse me. So tutoring I felt was really important for me, especially with reading comprehension, because I figured out how to basically strengthen those skills. And with tutoring, it made it very personable to me. It made life a lot easier for me, because I was able to have a lot less stress going forward. And I know, especially with the reading courses, this is true. I actually took extra time to go to the reading lab and actually take extra assignments so I could actually work on my reading comprehension. No one told me to do that. I had to do it because reading comprehension was the worst thing in the world. And now, as a result of that, I actually enjoy reading. I can actually get through books a lot quicker. So it's become an essential skill for my life. So tutoring is essential. If you have an appointment, I highly suggest you keep it and be consistent with it. Don't constantly cancel or not show up, because then that shows you're not being diligent. The more you can tutor in the beginning, believe it or not, the less you will need it in the future. You'll actually be more independent. You won't need to rely on it as much. Because by the time I got to the end of Project Connections, I don't even really think I used much of tutoring, because I had all the skills that I needed at the foundational levels. Any other questions? Yeah.
Other than attending a class to make a connection, how else can you make like another network connection?
Good question. So you can do that by going to by becoming involved with different clubs, attending different events. I always felt going to different events on campus especially was very helpful, right? Especially if you know there's going to be a well-known speaker going to be speaking at an event, I would suggest going to that, especially with a topic that interests you. Any other questions? Yeah. Put a hand up.
In the salmon shirt over there. Goldenrod group.
Yeah.
Alexandra, do you have a question?
Do you have a question?
Oh yeah, like when there was like there's a time when you get like nervous or stressed out, is there can you like get help, like ask them like how you feel, like can you ask not just a counselor, but can you tell a teacher how you feel?
Well, it depends also on how, it's a great question. So it really depends also how comfortable you feel with that professor, right? It depends on what you're going through. I know with certain professors here, I got to know them on a very different level because I was that comfortable with not only how they taught, but I liked where they stood on a lot of different issues. So the more comfortable you are with that person, the easier it will be. But my suggestion is always to even try to use that in terms of friends, right? Try to go to your friends first if you can. Yes, you have your professor, but you always want to treat them more on a professional level, right? Because that is what their profession is. You want to respect them for the title that they have and the job that they do. Of course, if they open themselves to that, then that's up to you if you actually want to go farther with that, but that's something you have to take on a case-by-case basis, I think. Any other questions? So accommodations. So the biggest one that I used two. I used extended time, and I also used typing typing an essay on a computer. Because my handwriting, I actually write in script, and believe it or not, my handwriting can be pretty terrible at times. So I also was able to correct a lot of my mistakes. So again, it's not really getting an advantage, it's leveling the playing field. Because I was able to type my work, it actually helped me capture my mistakes a lot more, as opposed to me handwriting everything. So that was a huge accommodation for me. And at that extra time, even as Derek said yesterday, you might think that extra time might not be a big deal, but for people like us, it makes that difference if you need that time just to actually just take a few breaths and actually use those few minutes, those extra minutes to actually get yourself together, right? You're not trying to overwrite, you're not trying to change things last minute, you're using that to kind of get yourself together. So those accommodations, use them, you have them, right? They are your biggest support. Definitely take advantage of them. But again, you have to be the advocate here that actually goes to the professor and says, and preferably I would recommend don't wait that long. If you have to, no later than the second class, because by that point, things are going to get rolling for that course. Especially if it meets twice a week. If you wait till the second or third meeting, things are going to be already underway. So if you have to, meet with the professor either before class, after class, or even in their office hours. Whatever's going to be best for you, wherever you feel most comfortable. Those accommodations are going to be everything for you, especially in the beginning. And I got news for you. We all have taken remedial courses, and you're going to. My first semester here, I didn't have one single class that was a credit course. But that's okay, because I realized it wasn't a way to hold me back. It was a way to build up to what I actually needed to reach. So I feel that's very important. So anyone who does have a remedial course, don't feel bad that you have one.
Steven, so you were diagnosed with a learning disability, and you went through K through 12 school with certain academic struggles, and now you're a teacher. how does that impact you as a teacher? What are you aware of, and how does it impact you?
Well, I think it's a great question. So what I'm aware of is like how students learn, especially those who have 504s, those who have IEPs. I try to change things in terms of how I was taught. Because I know growing up when I was in special ed, a lot of teachers would say to me when I had a question, oh, we'll just go over it. But has anybody ever been told that whenever you in high school or even middle school you asked that, and they would say like, oh, we'll just go over it? Show of hands, how many had that happen to them? So a lot of us in here, right? So it's like one of the most debilitating things when a teacher says that. And oftentimes it wasn't even the regular teacher that would tell us this. I found it was actually the inclusion teacher. So that's one of the things that I'm noticing that has to change. So whenever I've noticed that go on in my classrooms, I've tried to correct that. Now, unfortunately, if you're teaching something like a computers class, even if you're substitute teaching, you don't necessarily have that second teacher in the room. So you have to be able to figure out, and you might not even know at that time who's classified and who is not. So you have to try to make it an adaptive environment so that everyone can learn the best way possible. So when I was long-term subbing, I've had the pleasure of doing not only long-term subbing for a history course, but I also actually did it for another subject. Anybody guess what the other subject was that I did a long-term subbing job for? Take a guess for a subject. Yeah.
EA teacher.
No, I wish. Nope.
Math?
God, no. Math made my existence. No, it was actually computers. And yet I'm certified in history. So for me, I actually had to teach a coding course and also a course called Project STEM. Completely out of my field. I had no idea how to do it. So, and I knew at one point who the students were that were classified, those who had 504s and those who had those who had IEPs. I had one student, a sixth grader, who was basically in a very tough situation where she wasn't really doing well. She was not passing. She kind of turned in a lot of assignments, and I found this to be very peculiar. And as I did my research, I found out she actually had a 504. So when I figured that out, I worked with her and being in touch with the guidance counselors and the parents and administrators, we were able to actually get her to pass with like a C-. So she was going to be failing, but because we worked with her and she was able to turn everything in on time, she was actually able to pass, which I thought was a great achievement. So you always need to be open to that. So I definitely recommend just being open to everything that you see around you. If you see something that you think you need to address it. And especially even in the teaching field, you're not always going to know necessarily how every student's going to learn, because not all students learn the same way, right? Just because they have a 504 or an IAP does not mean all their accommodations are going to be the same. You have to be respectful to that. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Yeah. What was it like for you, like compared to high school to college transition?
Oh, that's a great one. So compared to high school, I actually could not wait to get out of high school because I felt like high school just held me back. I wasn't even allowed to take advanced courses when I was in special education. They wouldn't even let me take a regular education English class. My guidance counselor's words at the time, she told me I was not ready. Yet I was able to pass with flying colors. I had A's and B's across the board. I was a good writer. I knew I was. And no one would, even though I was in an advanced creative writing course, that was an elective. That's why I was allowed to be in an advanced work in that sense. But in a core class, they wouldn't let me. So when I got here, I felt like I had all the freedom in the world to actually be with people, not only my own age, but people that it didn't matter what they had, whether they had a learning disability or not. So I felt like I was actually accepted for a change. So I thought that was really important for me. So it gave me the space that I needed to actually grow. And because of that, I feel like I changed a lot as a person. I became a lot more diligent with my work. I became a lot more independent. I became a lot friendlier actually, a lot more open and more willing to accept new people into my life because I feel that was really important. Okay, I think I'm running out of time, but I can take one more question. Any other questions? No? Going once? Going twice? Sold? All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Stephen. And again, you're always remarkable. And he's a remarkable student here, too. I wanted to introduce our interim president of the college, Dr. Mark McCormick. He's been kind of sitting in the back and kind of taking it all in, and we appreciate. He just wanted to say hi and greet everybody.
Thank you, Chair. Good
Morning.
morning. Steve's a hard act to follow. I just want to say a few words of welcome. How many of you right here have a little fear about coming to college next week? I do. So I do because I'm interim, and on Monday we have our convocation, the first day back for faculty who've been waiting for the summer, not our 12-month faculty, but our 10-month faculty, and others who haven't been around for a while. And we're also honoring someone who is going to get an award, who's bringing with him all kinds of VIPs, the Speaker of the State Assembly, a lot of council members, the freeholders, so I'm a little nervous about my speech, right? I'm trying to hit the right notes for both the audience I'm working with here at the college, but also the audience who can influence policy and help us out. So I know when you go to college the first time, it's always a little nerve-wracking, nerve-making. My daughter, who's 18, I took her last week to her college, and she was fine. I left her. I got home, and when she called about 3 hours later, said, I want to come home. And she's a really bright, hardworking, go-getter kind of girl. And I said, well, why? And she told me, I said, why don't you take a little break and take a nap, or go talk to your roommate, and see your RA, or resident assistant. She's at a residential college. And I said, if 2 hours from now you still feel something, call me back. Well, sure enough, 2 hours later, she was fine. But that fear is there for all of us when something new happens. So I want to encourage you not to be afraid of the fear and push it down, but to ask yourself what's causing the fear. And I think one of the things you just heard from Steve, right? You have amazing resources here at Middlesex County College. I've worked at 5 colleges, and by far, this is the best. Partly because we have things like Project Connections, and an amazing counseling staff, and other resources available that every college has. So take advantage of that, ask questions, don't be afraid, and I want to see you 2 or 3 years from now walking across the stage to say congratulations and commencement. So best of luck this year. I'll see you around. Thank you.